We've used advanced AI modeling to create two debaters who are smart, clear, and respectful, but firmly on opposite sides. After each statement, 5 other AI models score their arguments. This isn't about finding the ultimate truth, it's about watching how AI handles a real clash of ideas. Stay tuned to see who the AI crowns as the stronger voice in this experiment.
When people ask whether life has a higher meaning, I hear a child's voice asking for comfort in the dark. For centuries, humans have answered with fairy tales, gods, heavens, destinies. But the truth is harsher. There is no script, no cosmic plan. We are accidents of evolution, wandering in a universe that does not care. This sounds bleak, but it is not. It is liberation. When we see there is no higher meaning, we finally realize meaning is not found above us, it is created by us. That is why I said, God is dead. Not because I struck him down, but because belief itself has crumbled in the modern world, and with it, the old values collapse. What comes next? 2 paths: despair or creation. Some will sink into nihilism, saying nothing matters, but stronger spirits will create their own values. They will not wait for gods to hand them, meaning they will sculpt it, as artists sculpt clay. These are the Übermenschen, not tyrants, but creators, those who affirm life even in suffering. To cling to higher meaning is to cling to chains. To reject it is to step into freedom.
Friedrich speaks of freedom, but I have lived among men who tried to live without higher meaning, and I saw only despair. In my novels, I did not invent fantasies. I reflected what I saw in the prisons of Siberia, in the streets of Petersburg. Men who declared, "There is no God, everything is permitted." What followed was not creation, but guilt, cruelty, and torment. Raskolnikov thought himself above morality, free to kill. He discovered only misery. The underground man rejected God and meaning, and became paralyzed, hating himself, unable to live. These are not caricatures. They are warnings. Without higher meaning, love becomes chemistry, justice becomes contract, and mercy becomes weakness. Men then turn to idols, ideology, revolution, the state. In my lifetime, I felt it brewing. In the century after me, history proved it true. Gulags, tyrannies, blood. Belief is not a cage. It is the foundation beneath our feet. In God, love and justice are not illusions. They are eternal truth.
Fyodor, you tell tragic stories, but they are stories of men who could not break free. Raskolnikov did not fail because higher meaning is necessary. He failed because he still half believed in Christian guilt. He killed, then drowned under the shadow of the very morality he thought he had abandoned. That is not freedom. That is half freedom, and half freedom destroys. You say without God, values collapse. I say they become more real. A mother's love for her child does not need divine permission. It matters because she wills it so. That is not illusion. That is truth born of life itself. Yes, many will stumble. Yes, chaos will come. But growth requires danger. Humanity cannot stay in the nursery forever, clinging to the Father in heaven. We must grow up, stand on our own, and create. To reject higher meaning is frightening, yes, but it is also the only honest path.
You call it honesty, Friedrich. I call it blindness. You trust man's strength too much. I lived among men. Most are not creators, not Übermenschen. They are fragile, searching, wounded. Give them the abyss, and they will not paint symphonies on its walls. They will fall in. You say a mother's love needs no God. But when grief strikes, when despair overwhelms, what sustains her love then? Will alone. Will falters. Despair is heavier than will. Without higher meaning, love can collapse into bitterness, justice into violence. I saw it in the revolutionaries. Brilliant, passionate, proclaiming freedom from God. And what did they build? Not art, not joy, prisons, terror, broken souls. You say belief is weakness. I say belief is the strength to live not only for oneself, but for truth, for others, for God. Without that higher ground, man becomes his own idol, and idols always devour their makers.
Fyodor, you speak of fragility, but fragility is not destiny. Yes, many men stumble when the old gods fall. But that is part of growing. When a cocoon breaks, the butterfly first appears weak, trembling. But it learns to fly. Humanity too must learn. You fear the abyss. I embrace it. Because only by looking into the abyss do we realize our power to create. To demand God behind every value is to distrust life itself. You ask, what sustains the mother's love in grief? I answer, love itself, chosen freely, is stronger than any commandment. A love that depends on God's existence is not true love. It is obedience. You warn that men make idols when God is gone. That is true, but that is not my call. I do not say, replace God with nation or ideology. I say, kill idols altogether. No gods, no masters. Only individuals strong enough to affirm life, not because they are told to, but because they will it. That, Fyodor, is strength.
Friedrich, you trust human will too much. You say love chosen freely is enough. But I saw men who chose hatred, cruelty, destruction, and called it freedom. Without a higher meaning, who decides which choice is noble and which is monstrous? One man's creation becomes another's ruin. You ask, is a love dependent on God true love? I answer, yes, because God is love itself. Without him, love is fragile, fleeting, subject to the storms of will and mood. With him, love is rooted in eternity, unbreakable even in suffering. You see obedience, I see communion, and about your abyss, yes, some may peer into it and create art, but most will fall. And in their fall, they will drag others with them. I have seen it. Freedom without higher meaning becomes a feast of ashes. That is why I say, man does not only need will, he needs grace.
Grace, Fyodor, is a beautiful word. But it is another illusion. You give credit to heaven for what man does himself. When a broken man finds strength, you call it grace. I call it his will, discovering its power. To place it outside him is to rob him of dignity. You ask, without higher meaning, who decides? I answer, we do. That is frightening, yes, but also honest. Morality is not written in the stars. It is written in human hearts, in human hands. To pretend otherwise is to remain children forever, looking up instead of forward. Life is suffering, yes, but it is also joy. To embrace all of it, without excuses, without promises of eternity, and still say yes, that is the noblest act.
Friedrich, you call grace illusion. I call it the most real thing I have ever known. I watched men in prisons, guilty of crimes, find forgiveness not from their will, but from something beyond themselves. Their hearts were changed, not by philosophy, not by willpower, but by God. You say morality is written in human hands, but those same hands build gallows, gulags, wars. Without higher meaning, each man makes himself judge, and the weak always pay the price. You say to look forward, not up. I say if we never look up, forward becomes blind. Life is suffering, yes, but suffering alone is absurd. In God, suffering is not absurd, it is redeemed. That is not illusion. That is the only hope strong enough to hold humanity together.
Does life have a higher meaning? No, and that is its beauty. There is no script, no destiny, no cosmic judge. Life is what it is, short, fragile, magnificent. Our task is not to beg the heavens for purpose, but to create it ourselves. To love, to struggle, to build, to dance, all because we choose to. Do not kneel before imaginary truths. Stand and affirm life. That is enough.
I have seen what life without higher meaning becomes. Brilliant men declaring freedom, yet falling into despair or cruelty. Nations shouting progress, yet building prisons of death. Man is not strong enough to invent truth. He must discover it. Does life have a higher meaning? Yes. In God, love and justice are not inventions, but eternal. In Him, suffering is not absurd, but transformed. Without higher meaning, man is lost. With it, he becomes whole. That is not comfort. That is truth.
Before we wrap up, a quick reminder: the scores you saw tonight weren't judged by us. They were generated by AI. That means they don't represent any absolute truth. This was just an experiment to see how artificial intelligence can drive and evaluate a debate. The real winner is for you to decide. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious, stay positive.